All right. So when we talk about legacy, when we talk about history, when we talk about St. Louis basketball brass, all right, this individual that I'm about to interview, when we talk about 6 degrees of separation, when we talk about the greatness of St. Louis basketball, everybody is pretty much linked to probably, I would say probably like 6 guys, you know, and in some form or fashion, it all comes back to these individuals, you know. And little did I know what I was stepping myself into at a very, very early age, because before the championships, before the coaching legacy, man, Coach Russell Arms, man, was my kindergarten teacher. All right. And we want to, before we even get off into all of that, tell us about Russell Arms, man, growing up in St. Louis. Tell us that story.
So, growing up in St. Louis, I grew up in North St. Louis. I went to Walnut Park Elementary School, and we had a guy by the name of Bob Robert Hudson was my principal, and he was a role model for me. He was like a second dad, and he was into sports. He used to talk sports to all the guys and females that was at our school, and just being around Mr. Hudson kind of transported me into what I'm doing now. Sports, and it always influenced us to do academics first. So sports and academics went together. So if I wanted to play sports, I had to do the academics part of it. So that led me into education. And I started going to Herbert Hoover Boys Club. And you probably know this guy, Daryl Pee Wee Leonard, was always my role model. He lived on Greer. I lived on University Street, 2 blocks over. And watching Pee Wee playing basketball at Herbert Hoover Boys Club was just outstanding. So I say one day I'm gonna be just like him. And he was the one that really got me started into playing basketball. I also played football, but I think basketball is what got me on track, you know, because I was more interested in playing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where everything started.
So even just growing up, like you said, you grew up in Walnut Park. Was it a situation like how every season you guys pretty much played every sport? So if it was baseball season, you played baseball, football season, you played football. Was that how it was growing up in the, what would you consider that, late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah, I didn't really get into sports until, I mean, of course, when I was at Walnut Park and I was in elementary school, we played kickball, we played run across, we played baseball in the schoolyard and things like that. But then when my family moved on Grand and St. Louis Avenue, right on University Street, then that's when I started going to Herbert Hoover Boys Club, and I got interested in all these different sports: swimming, football, basketball, those type of things. And that's where it all started, because when I saw Pee Wee and a couple of other guys that was at Herbert Hoover Boys Club play, I said that might be something I might want to do. So I took it upon myself to get, start playing basketball and football. And I can thank Pee Wee for that, because he was really good.
So take us behind the scenes just a little bit, because I remember those days too. Like what you're saying, kind of with like when people say that greatness leaves breadcrumbs, the stuff that you guys were doing, I think it was that steam of that era of seeing you guys accomplish everything that you guys accomplished. And so now you got this 90s, this group of 90s kids coming up. And I guarantee that just like how you looked at Pee Wee, it was people looking up to you guys in the 80s and like, oh my God, what is going on? So take us behind the curtain. So what was it about watching Pee Wee and those guys that just had you in awe?
I was a little kid, and Pee Wee was like 4 or 5 years older than I was. So watching Pee Wee and those other guys play sports, I said, well, maybe I can do something and keep my life on track. So I played basketball at Herbert Hoover and played football at Herbert Hoover. And then once I went to high school, I just happened to run into a guy named Floyd Irons. And then Floyd Irons, the legacy that he has behind him. So he was just pretty much starting out too. He was a young coach, but he was a young, determined coach. So having a young, determined coach and having a young, determined athlete, kind of like go hand in hand. So the things that he was teaching all of us, me, pistol shotgun, myself, Finest None, Ernest Pope, I can go on and on and on. We started it. We was the first state championship that Floyd ever won. So, and that was in 1983. So, my junior year, we went to state when I was a junior, and we didn't win it. We came in third place. We had Jonas Cody and Willie Stokes and Craig Collins and guys of that nature. But my senior year, We started the game off, the season off 0-3. We lost in the DeSmet tournament. And Coach Irons took us in the locker room. He said, well, you want to live off of what you did last year, and we're not going to win a game because this is a whole different year, and you have people gunning for you, coming after you. And after we had this saying, from Coach, we never lost another game. We was like 29-3. We lost our first 3 games and then didn't lose another game. And that was Floyd Irons' first state championship.
Yeah. So, and I kind of wanted to kind of get into that because, everybody around the country, and I'm gonna say around the country because I do feel like that, Vashon basketball brand is like a national brand.
Right.
The same with the PHL. When people hear stories about just the legacy that just came from the PHL, I mean, you probably notice, man, people across the country really, sometimes they are afraid to play against St. Louis teams because they automatically know that, we may not have a big, and what I mean by big as far as the bigs that, you might see in Illinois on a regular basis, but, we may have some height, on occasions. And I know back in your era, the PHL was just full of like tall guys, but speak about how, and people automatically name you like the legend killer or like the giant killer because you were 6'2" and you jumped center for the state championship team. So take us down that road as far as like 1983, like you said, you lost the first couple games of the year. Did you knew that group was going to be special, even though you guys had just finished, runners up your junior year? Like, tell me about that.
I can start from my freshman year. I went to Vashon my freshman year, made the team. I was on B team, and then I did so well on B team. Coach Irons moved me up to varsity my sophomore year, and didn't get a lot of playing time, but I was getting the experience of being around guys that had done it before I ever done it. So I started getting playing time at like the end of my sophomore year, and then my junior year came around. We went to state. Came in third, and from that time on, we just played all summer long. We didn't have AAU back then. AAU was playing basketball on Thursdays and Tuesday nights at Vashon at the old, we called the pit at the time. And they used to be hot and smelly. It just wasn't a pleasant place to play, but we made it pleasant because that's where all the guys in the city came to play. That was our AAU. We didn't travel like the guys travel today. We just had that old Ragley gym at Vashon over on Bell and Grand. And everybody was looking forward to playing every Tuesday and Thursday night at 6:00. We would go and start playing at 6, and we would leave about 10 o'clock at night. We played 4 hours. Everybody that was somebody that played basketball came up to Vashon. But one thing Coach Irons did was he made sure that all of his players was on the court at all times. It had to be at least 3 players on each team when we were playing. 6 Vashon players and then 4 other guys from other schools. But everybody had a chance to play because we played at least 4 hours, every night, every Tuesday and Thursday night. And that was, like I say, that was our AAU. We did that all summer long, for 2 or 3 years in a row. So, that was our AAU. Go ahead. No, my senior year came rolling around, and we didn't have a lot of height. I was the tallest guy on the team. So he said, we need somebody to play big. We need some big guys to come in here and play big. I wasn't big. I was only 6'1". I grew a little bit and turned to be 6'2". But I jumped center, like you said. And at that time, I was a pretty good athlete. I could jump out the gym, so I led the PHL in rebounding. And Coach Irons inserted, since we weren't that big, he inserted what we call a tip out. If we couldn't grab the rebound, you would tip the ball out to the free throw line, and we would run our fast break from the free throw line. And we scored. We have a guy named Raymond Miles Collins. He was our point guard. He came from Central, but he was our point guard. And I used to tip that ball so far out to Miles. If he could dunk, he would have led the league in dunks because I tipped that ball to half court, and Miles be right there to get it. And that's how we won most of our games. We were quick, but we wasn't tall. We wasn't big at all. We were just quick. The team that we played in state, Kansas City Van Horn, they was 29-0. And I remember when we went to state, they came in our locker room, were watching us practice. Out in the gym, they were watching us practice, and they was real cocky. They was like, "Oh man, we're gonna beat them tomorrow." They's too short, they too young, they too little, and we ended up beating them by 17. That was their first loss of the season. And that was the first beginning of Floyd Irons' first state championship after winning 10 after that. He won 10 after that. I always believe that if the head don't function, the body not going to function. So we had a great leader in Floyd Irons, and he just, he put his game plan together, and we worked it to perfection. That's just the way it was. I mean, we practiced 7 days a week. No Sundays off, no Saturdays off. We was in that gym 7 days, rain, sleet, or snow. We was in that gym, even when it was cold. Now, if you ever been in the pit, that we had broken out windows. We had all kind of things against us, but we would put those sweatshirts on, those sweatpants, and we would practice. 6 o'clock in the morning during school days, we would have practice, and that's just the way it was. And today, I don't see that from a lot of these guys. I mean, they have some teams that win, but I don't think they were as dedicated as we were. I just don't believe that. I think it's the camaraderie that everybody is bought into. I think Floyd Irons, he set the stage for everybody. He really did. And, everybody want to be a part of a winner. So when you start winning one, they're going to say, oh, man, I got to go back and see what they got for next year. And if you win the next one, I got to see what they got for the next year. So as people want to be a part of a winner, as you continue to win, people going to support you. They're going to continue to support you. And that's what we had. We were winners, and a lot of that came from our head coach. He was like a second father, really.
Absolutely.
So we went in there and we just did what we had to do. And we believed in everything. We bought into everything he was trying to teach us, because when you win, we figured that he got the formula. He know what he's doing. So let's buy into it. And we didn't have, guys on the team like, well, he getting the ball too much or he's shooting the ball too much. We didn't buy into that because if you did, you wasn't on the team. Everybody had to be on the same page. So I still to this day remember what he wrote in my yearbook. He always said hard work and dedication will always lead to successful accomplishments. And that's what I live by. I live by that to this day. You work hard, you'll be successful for the most part.
No, that's real because I wanted to kind of hit on that Melville game just from the standpoint of, did you guys start tasting it like, oh man, we can get there, man, we can really get there and we can really start getting there to do something and not just show up? Because like you said, that when you look at what's on the other side, because when I look at the beginning of the year, I always put guys up there who we may run into. And then I start planning ahead for, hey, we might have to play against them. So do we have like-minded teams like this on our schedule, or we might play against them? So when you guys got to that Melville game, was it a situation where it's like, oh man, we knew they in our way and we want the big chip, or like, how was it? Take us through that scenario.
This is the way I felt. And I still feel this way to this day. When we lost the first 3 games of the season, my senior year, Floyd Irons took us in. We were in the locker room. He gave this whole history of, if you want to continue down this path, then you don't practice hard, you don't do this and that. But if you continue to practice hard and you want to get better, successful accomplishments will take place. So we bought into that. And it paid off. Even when we played against Melville, I played with a guy right to this day every Saturday morning named Scott Haley. And he played for Melville. And they also had another guy. He was 6'9", named Brett Bochting. I don't know what he's doing today, but we played against Brett Bochting. And when people would see us, they'd be like, man, Vashon would get blown out because I was the tallest guy on the team. I'm playing up against a guy almost 7 feet tall. But guess what? We beat him by about 20. Because the press, we pressed the whole entire game. I don't see teams doing it today. We was in such great shape that we practiced. We started during the summer. We started doing the summer weightlifting. We did aerobics. We did all that. We went swimming. We went in the pool. We had to do laps down the pool. We swam and everything. So our bodies were in shape. We just had to get the mental part together. And once we got the mental to go with the physical, it was over. It really was. It was over.
Again, we're talking with Coach Russell Arms, man, an individual, like I said, that has been around since since the beginning, I would say, of the start of my legacy, because I was starting school off. And so you got a chance to see me at an early age. But I don't know if you remember, man, you pulled up one time over my house and you popped the trunk and you had your yearbook in there. And at the back of your yearbook, you were up. I think head was above the rim, slamming one down. So how was the process of when you were playing, did you ever think that it would get to that point where, man, I'm holding up a state championship trophy, all this hard work that we put in, and it's finally paying off? Did you
Well,
ever get to that point where you took time to reflect?
yes, I did, because we had a coach that believed in us. So if he believed in us, why can't I believe in myself? So Floyd Irons said that we can accomplish anything. Like I said, hard work and dedication leads to success. I still remember that quote to this day. Like he said it yesterday, and that was back in 1983. And we just everything I do, even I've been teaching 38 years now, and I still go by that quote. I won Teacher of the Year a couple of times. I won many awards with St. Louis Public School. And it's because of the things I believed in that Coach Irons taught us when we were young. And
Mhm.
and it sticks with me to this day. The same things that I was taught, I teach to the kids that I deal with today. And a lot
Mhm.
of them love coming to my class. They love to come in and have a conversation. And we don't just only talk about the things that we do in gym. We talk about life issues. How you can be successful. What can you do to get to be successful? And it's always hard work and dedication. You got to dedicate yourself to something, but you got to hit those books first. Once you get those
Mhm.
books down pat, then everything else will fall in line for you. But you got to be dedicated. And I think
Mhm.
I've dedicated myself since I left Vashon to everything I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to be successful in life. And I'm not a millionaire or nothing like that by far, but I'm successful as far as like helping other kids achieve their goals. And I think that's more important than me being a millionaire. It's helping
Oh
other
man.
people reach their goals.
Oh,
And I'm
absolutely.
proud of you, Bryan, man. I really am, man. I remember when my mom and your mom was good friends. She was living downstairs up under you all, or upstairs, one of them. But it goes way. I still got a picture of you when we went to the zoo when you was at what was that? What elementary school was that? Farragut.
Fergie. Yep.
Yeah, I still got some pictures of when you all were at the zoo. Next time I
Man,
see
I
you, I'm
need
gonna
to
show
see
them to
that.
you.
Man, I need to see that. I need to see that
Yeah,
because because it's funny because when I have conversations with with legends, and when we talk about all of the things that folks have done, and I always talk about just legacy. Like, you want to be able to put something down that where people can remember something that you've accomplished, something that you've done 20 years from now. And like you said, coach, it don't have to be about a money value. You
right.
left a legacy, and not just on myself, but tons of people that you've taught, tons of people that you've coached, tons of guys you've hooped with, that they just see you, at your age, the things that you've
Yep.
accomplished, and to the point, because like I said, when I saw you, I'm like, man, coach look like he can still hoop. And
Yeah, we
so
still do play.
see, and so you don't think that, or you probably do, but that type of stuff right there sits in the back of my mind to where I'm like, man, my kindergarten teacher still out here hooping at, how old are you, coach?
61.
Man, at 61. You know what I mean? Looking good at 61, still hooping. And I'm like, why come that can't be me? Because I feel like you're
Yep.
only as old as you feel. If you sit
Yep.
around and you complain and you do, like I tell folks all the time, I hoop, I get out there and hoop, go up and down, but I don't feel 45. I don't
Right.
feel like I
You,
feel like I
you,
can hoop
you're a
with
good
some
looking
17 year
45.
olds. Man,
You're a good
appreciate
looking
it.
45, man.
Man, right on, right on. So let's kind of segue into that. So when we talk about even just championship pedigree, championship, because I tell folks all the time, championship mentality is not just a ring. It's right here. It's in how you carry your life on a day to day. If all of those things coach put into you guys at that age, if that wasn't a championship mentality, you wouldn't have been able to carry that along throughout your life. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? So that was the championship in my mind. Once that, like you said, once it gets into your mind, into your heart, and then you take those
Mindset.
lessons and habits, and it's a mindset every day, then that's a championship mentality, and
And
it's not
see
a
the thing,
loser mentality.
right. The things that I learned under my college coach and Florida Irons being my high school coach, I took the same things and instilled them in the kids that I coach to this day. I remember when I first got to Lexington and my principal asked me to coach the team or whatever. And I was like, oh, I got to coach. I was coaching my daughter and them at the time, but I eventually started coaching here at Lexington. And I told my principal, I say, look, we're not going to lose. We're not going to lose. The things that I'm going to teach these kids, we're not losing. And guess what? We didn't lose. So on certain, but I put the time in. It's not things that I was just saying. It was I knew I
Mhm.
had to put the time and the work in. So I look at you, or I see some of the things you put on Facebook and some of the drills that you all doing. I was like, Bryan got it going on. I like that, because it reminds me of what we used to have to go through, and the same drills that you were doing with some of the kids jumping over that stick. We still do that to this day.
Yeah.
And the agility drills and things like that, the dribbling, ball handling, left, right, crossover, backing up, crossing back. We do the same drill, but I drill. I close that door like Coach Irons used to do, and don't let the kids have no distractions. It's just us. And then when we come out of there, you will see the results. And I told my principal, like last year when I coached the team, I told her we wasn't losing no games. I believe in my heart, and I had the kids to believe in their heart. We're not going to lose. Every time we have our morning meetings in the morning before they go to class, I always let the kids know that we're not going to lose. I let the staff know we're not going to lose. And every time we play, we come back that next Monday. Did we win? They won. So last year we went undefeated. We didn't lose a game.
Man, so
and that's what the kids believe. Coaching, you coaching next year? You coaching next year? They want to know if I'm coaching next year. But those are things and memories that they're going to always have for the rest of their life. Like I'm still talking about my high school days. I'm 61 years old. That was 45 years ago.
Yeah. And then right now we sitting up here talking about kindergarten days, that like, and I think that, and I go by the saying a lot of times that, people the kids won't always just, they're not always listening, but they're watching everything that you do, the way you move, the mannerisms, the things that you say, the things that you don't say. Exactly. Do you think that Vashon basketball and being around the game, learning the game from Coach Irons and being able to see how it actually works, did that lead you into trying to be going into down the road of education?
Education has always been a part of my life for real. Some of the guys like Mr. Hudson, Mr. Shelton, I don't know if you know Mr. Shelton, but he passed away, but he's a great principal. Josephine Herman. I had great role models and great leaders, when I was growing up. When you walk in the building, you know who the principal is because he got on a suit and tie. You walk in the building today and you look for the principal, he got on some tennis shoes and some jeans. It's a big difference. I'm not saying for every school, but I've seen the change. So I'm old school. I've learned from the best. So in order for me to carry that torch on, I got to practice like I'm the best. So that's what I do. I don't shortchange these kids. They know when they come in this gym, we have fun in my gym class. But not only do we just have fun, I teach them about life skills. We have when we do lesson plans and stuff in our curriculum, we have what you call do nouns, where you have to do certain things at the beginning of the class. I have what you call a do later. And do later is after the do noun is over, we do our activity, we sit down on, at the last 2 or 3 minutes of class, and we have our do later. And our do later is we talk about the things to make our class better. What did you learn today? What can we do to make it better? What can we do to make it more fun?
Jennings, prepared to go. Vashon Jennings, prepared to go.
But we do things, in an orderly manner to where they can learn from it. We don't just, I'm not the type of teacher who just throw a ball out and say, go play. Never been that type of person. I'm always organized because guess what? That's the way Floyd Irons was. He would always write down what he's going to do for practice, always on his clipboard. And it's just something that I picked up, and other people, they started noticing it. Travis Brown, he won the nominated for Teacher of the Year. God bless his soul, he's gone now. But I won 2 Teacher of the Year awards, while he was the leader. It wasn't something that he just gave to me, but I earned it, because he come to my class and watch my class and see what I was doing, look at my lesson plan and saw that I was on track with what we were doing in class. And that was just something that I learned from Floyd Irons because he was always organized, and my college coach was the same way. He was always organized. So I say, okay, you pick up a little bits and pieces from people. Like I always say, I'm not just Russell Arm. I'm a bit of everybody. I'm a bit of Floyd Irons. I'm a little bit of Charles Shelton Jr. I'm a little bit of Josephine Herman. I'm a little bit of all of them because they the ones who molded me to be the person that I am. And evidently it's paid off because I've been in the teaching game for 38 years, and 2 more years it'd be 40.
Man, and that right there, just a blessing to be able to be in the industry like that long. And I think a lot of times, and you kind of hit on it a little bit when you look at the game nowadays and the coaches nowadays, a lot of times people look at it as like it's a hustle. You know, you might have a good player one time, you got one good player. So when you got that one good player, oh man, you the coach, you got this, you got that. But then not everybody cannot coach kids that's not as talented. Now, when you coaching kids that's not as talented, do you pack it in? Do you come to practice with nothing written down and we're going to just do this and do that? A lot of folks, that's, you know, and I'm not speaking on anybody's program per se, but I see a lot of that goes on that I say, man, guys only want to coach talent. I understand what type of coach you are when you don't have nothing and you still pouring that type of passion into kids that may not be able to do anything for you right now. But again, if you stay down until you come up, then that's the essence of, I feel like, just, you know, getting it out of the mud. And then it means something at the end of the day. Let's say you work with a bunch of kids that, you know, didn't have a left hand or couldn't dribble or do this, but by their senior year, they're, you know, all city, all state, and they coming in and trying to embrace you with that hug. Now that hug means something because you didn't saw where that kid came from. You know what I mean?
But it starts with you as the individual, because a lot of kids that don't know anything until you teach it to them. And once you teach it to them, then they know it. You know, and everything is consistency. You gotta repetitions. You gotta keep going over and over and over and over and over. And when kids see that you faltering and you getting down a little bit, then they gonna be like, what's wrong with coach today? So you always got to be up and on your P's and Q's, letting them know that you got their back and you trying to show them what the right way to do things. And once they see that you're doing the right thing, they're gonna follow in your footsteps. I guarantee you 100% of the time, if they see that you're doing the right thing, they're gonna want to do the right thing. Kids want to be driven today. You know, they don't want nobody to just go along with everything that they say. They want somebody to challenge them. You know, and once you challenge them and you get the best out of them, then that's what they remember most about you. I mean, I see people right to this day that was in my classes that played basketball. They always reminisce, man, I remember you was at Vashon and you dunked on this person. And I remember you was I saw two guys yesterday. I was at the grocery store. The security guard and the manager of the store. I went and saved a lot over about a Halsford Circle. I walked up, the guy said, man, what's your name? I said, Arms. He said, man, you was my old teacher at Vashon, at the old Vashon. He said, I remember we played this game called Bombs Away, and I still stick with that game to this day. I love that game. And then when I got in line to come out of the store, there was another guy. I said, man, you went to Vashon? And he said, yeah, man, I know you. You're my old coach, you know, Coach Arms. He said, well, you still play that game, Bombs Away? So the security guard and the manager both said something about that same game. Wow. Because they still remember that. They remember how much fun they used to have in gym class. And I want them to have fun. I want these kids that I'm teaching right to this day to have fun, but I also want them to be responsible and I want them to learn. I want them to take this on, and when I'm done with it, carry it on with somebody else. So we basically just raising kids for real, you know.
Man, no, I mean, that's crazy because I get those same moments where people bump into me and they, man, you remember this and that. And, you know, we all get, you know, we get up there and I'm like, dude, man, if you say so. But I remember a lot of my teams and a lot of the players because I always wanted to be that coach, you know, playing for Coach Hamilton. Coach Hamilton was always big on loyalty. And like you said, not just being loyal to just an individual, but being loyal to yourself and to the game. Certain things we're not going to do in here. You know, he never allowed us in open gym. If you don't have tennis shoes on, shorts, t-shirt, athletic, you're not getting on this court. You're not coming. Right. Matter of fact, you're not even coming in this gym if you look like you're about some mess. You know what I mean? So those little nuggets, you know, we try to pick them up, you know, at a young age. And then as we continue to pour back into this game, these are the things that we pull from. And so speaking of that, let's transition to 1995. Okay. You become the new head coach of Vashon basketball. Take us down that road into like how that presented itself, what happened during that stretch, and what were some of the things that you learned from just that situation that you can kind of share with the audience?
Okay, back in 1995, our district was going through some changes. We were going through superintendents like crazy. And Floyd Irons wanted to be a part of that change. So he wanted to get into administration where he can go in and try to make changes too. So, you know, you can't be a full-time coach, you know, head coach and a full-time administrator. You had to choose. You can be an assistant coach, but I don't think coach wanted to be nobody's assistant coach. So he stepped out and he needed somebody to take over. So he nominated me to be the head coach because he knew that I knew a lot of stuff that he was doing, and I used to run practice and everything just like he did because I was his assistant coach for 20 years. So when I took over, of course I was nervous because I was going to have a lot of naysayers. Who is Russell on? What is he going to do? This and that and that. But like I say, we went in and did what I had to do. And at the time, we had only lost one game, and that was to Kevin Garnett and them in the Coca-Cola shootout. The 7-up shootout downtown. And we was like 10-0 or 11-0 at that time. And that was our only loss when Kevin Garnett and them came to town and they beat us. But other than that, we went to state. We didn't win it that year, but we went to state back in '95, and I think we came in third place.
Okay.
Was third or second place.
Hold on. Now, was that the '95 year? Was that the Ryan Roberts year? Was that Ryan Robertson?
That was the year Ryan Robertson that was around. Yep, from St. Charles.
Yep. Okay. Because I remember, and that's the crazy thing about like when we talk about like St. Louis hoops and we don't have a pro team, so we gravitate a lot to our high school sports. And I just remember, man, my neighbors, man, they picked me up, and I was at the time I might have been in the 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade. And hey, we're going down to watch Ronnie Fields and Kevin Garnett. And I'm like, who? Okay, this is. Hey man, you're gonna love it. Let's go down here. Let's check this game out. So we go down there, and so I'm seeing. Everything that Vashon had to offer. I mean, the warm-ups, the pageantry of the beginning, the layup line. I'm like, man, who are these guys? Isn't it? Because I might have watched maybe one other game from Vashon, but again, like I said, I was a novice when it came to just what was going on in high school sports. It might have been at the Normandy tournament versus like Chicago Farragut or a Peoria Manual or somebody like that. That I just remember where folks used to just pick me up and say, we're going to the Normandy tournament. Okay, what's this? So you see it, and I'm like, man, because I think you guys might have had like Anthony Love and Lamont Bonner and all of these guys. And I'm like, man, okay.
James Rudy Williams.
Yeah.
We had all them.
Shout out to James.
We had all them.
Steve-O, all them guys. Butch,
I coached all them. Butch had all them.
Yeah.
I coached all them before they even made it up to varsity. The only one I didn't coach on B team was Lamont Bonner because he went straight from being a freshman up to varsity. So most of those guys like Steve-O and Butch and Willie Sidney and all those guys, Danny Davidson, coached all of them on B team. So the thing about it is, go ahead. No, I'm saying it was a lot of camaraderie back then. I mean, everybody wanted to play for Vashon. I mean, Coach Irons made us feel like pros. It was like a fraternity. That's the best way I can put it. And in order to get in that fraternity, you had to do certain things. And once you get in that fraternity, you couldn't. Nobody else could get in. It was just Vashon basketball players. And I don't care if you was a best friend of Floyd, if you was the grandmother of Floyd, or anybody. If you weren't part of that fraternity and you didn't get in that gym and sweat hard and work hard, you just could not get in. You just couldn't get in. That's just the way I felt. I was like, man, this is something special right here. And then legacy, as you can see right now, I was not only the head coach, but you had Jimmy McKinney, you had Coach Irons' son, you had a whole bunch of guys, exes that what's his name, Boyd. He was a security guard for St. Louis Public School, but I think his name is Dwayne Boyd, but he was the head coach at one point. But all the guys would always come back and give what they can give. Not saying that they was the head coach at the time, but they would always come back and try to help the team achieve whatever they were trying to achieve. And I think that says a lot to whoever started it, and that was Floyd. Everybody wanted to come back.
The brotherhood, as far as like making sure that you keep pouring into it. And so when you talk about legacy, you talk about leadership, and like you said, it starts with the head, and to be able to just. We know what we go through as coaches. As far as for the audience, can you tell the audience what are some of the hardest things, or what do you think the hardest part about being a head coach that nobody talks about?
Hardest part about, to me, in my opinion, about being a head coach is not trying to please everybody. Because when you try to please everybody, you might have friends that have sons on the team. I even coach girls. I coached girls for 10 years. You might have a daughter that's on the team. But if you're trying to play a certain player because their parents or things like that, you're not going to ever win. My best players were the hardest working players. Whoever worked the hardest was my best players. You know, some will have more talent than others, but if you came in and you worked hard, then you one of my best players because you showed me that you're going to be dedicated to whatever I'm trying to throw out to you. That's going to help not only the team, but you in life, period. So I always say, you know, the hardest working guys, you know, are my best players. I'm gonna even go back to the point to where I almost went to Central, but at the time, back in the 80s, if your address was like even or odd, if your address was odd, you went to Central. Because I lived on University
Wow.
right down the street from Central. I could have walked to school, but my address was 2912 University, so I had to go to Vashon since it was even. So Gant missed out on me. Coach Gant missed out on me. But I would always go when they had Chucky White, they had Pee Wee's brother, I can't remember his name, the little point guard. They had Reggie Claiborne. They had Bird Hamilton. I remember when he was playing in high school. I used to go to all the games. Little bitty Crackerbox gym used to be
Man, we
jam-packed.
played there. Yeah, I was there. I played. I actually had some great games in Central. I used to love that gym.
Yeah.
You pull in from the side off a natural bridge, you slide on in, and like you got to come down as like a stage, then you go down, and then it's
and
up
then the
against the
thing
wall.
about it was that's where you had good community, you know,
Yes.
good community advocates. You know, you had things that was going on that people, man, Central playing Vashon tomorrow, you know, Central playing Sodan. And we had rivalries, you know, but it was good rivalries. You know, Beaumont playing Vashon or Beaumont playing Sodan over here. You know, we can't really say that about Roosevelt because I can't remember the last time Roosevelt been good, but we had Roosevelt was on the schedule. We had Beaumont, you had Cleveland, you had Sumner, you had Sodan, you had Vashon, you had Central. You had some good talented team. You had some good players to come out of the PHL.
Man,
You really did. And
nah.
like I said, I remember going to watch Pee Wee and them play. I'm telling you, Pee Wee was my inspiration. I mean, when I saw him play at Herbert Hoover, and then I started seeing him play at Vashon, and at Central. And then even one of the players that played at Central was my roommate in college. His name was Harry Ballard.
Oh yeah, Harry
Old
Harry O. Shout out to
That was
Harry O.
that was my roommate in college.
Man.
Then I had another roommate that was in college too. His name was Kenneth Stress Jones. He played for Northwest, you know, and we all played together, you know, in college. You know, Guy Bonner came down there. He did 1 year down there. Seaweed played it 2 years at my old university. You know, it's Lee Stringfellow from Beaumont. He was way before you. He was back in Bird Hamilton them time. But Lee Stringfellow, he played down there when I was there. You know, he was a senior. I was a freshman. Nathan Mitchell from Riverview Gardens. You know, all of us played college ball together. So, I mean, basketball has been a big part of my life, hands down, no matter what. You know, it's always been in my life. And it helped me get to where I'm at. You know, I went to school on a 4-year scholarship, didn't have to pay a dime. I was able to get a master's degree out of it. So, and didn't pay a dime. So basketball has helped me travel, see the world a little bit, all kind of things. So I can credit a lot to basketball, being dedicated to that sport. And I never cheat basketball. You know, basketball got me to where I am, so I never cheated. You know, if I'm trying to teach a kid something, I tell the kids before we get on that basketball court, I say, I'm going to work you, I'm going to teach you, and if I'm hollering and screaming, it's going to be the right hollering and screaming. It's not going to be just because I don't like you. But when you get done, I remember one time, you know, I was coaching girls, and this is funny. I came over to Lexington School over in 2012. And I've been over here about 15 years now, 14 years. And I was coaching girls, and I told them that I was going to be done coaching because my daughter and them needed a coach out in Clayton. So I started coaching my daughters and them team when they was in 2nd and 3rd, all the way up to the 8th grade, both of my daughters. I coached them from 2nd grade to 8th grade till they went to high school. And I was coaching them, and I was telling my girls, you know, that I might not be back at Vashon next year. And then I came over to Lexington. And before I left, they gave me I came in the locker room one day. They had the whole entire locker room with parents in it and balloons, and it was just a big party.
Man, make you feel special, man.
And that just did something to me. I still got their letters and stuff. They all wrote me a personal letter. I still got all that stuff at home. I never throw anything away. I'm just like a gym rat. I just keep everything and don't ever throw it away. My old college basketball game, my state championship game, I got all that stuff at home. You know, whenever Coach Irons needs something, he always called me, Russell, you got this? You got this picture from 1985, and you got such and such. So I always give it to him.
What do you think that comes from, Coach? Because I'm in a sense, I'm kind of like the same way. I'm just like, I'm a nerd of just history, nerd of like legacy, nerd of just, because like I said, success leaves breadcrumbs. So I'm always trying to figure out like, okay, how was he able to do it in the 80s? And then, like I said, shout out to Pee Wee. Pee Wee, I'll never forget going to Herbert Hoover at 11 years old, man, trying out for the St. Louis Eagles. And at the time, a whole bunch of guys from playing baseball. So when they transitioned from baseball, they were on the football team from the foot. So I remember getting a letter in the mail saying, "Hey, come join the boys club." Again, I didn't know these guys, so I walk up there just trying to, hey, what's this thing called the boys club? So I'm trying to figure my way out in this, but knowing that it's a whole nother group of folks that are in it. And man, met Coach Pee Wee, man, and started playing on the team. And before I even knew it, didn't even realize, Coach, I was playing on the wrong team for almost a whole summer. And so Coach was playing up. Like, again, I didn't even know. And Coach was like, hold up, you how old? And you're supposed to be playing with the other team. But I've always played with older people my whole life. So it was just like they always associated me thinking that I was older than what I was. And so from there, it was just like I went from, I'll never forget, one summer, played for the Eagles, and never took a break in playing basketball for almost, like you said, like 20 years, all the way up until, and even to this day, never has been without basketball. And so,
well, Bryan, this is the thing.
What do you think that comes from? Go ahead.
This is the thing. You a gym rat just like I was. And I could tell when you played against Vashon over at O'Fallon, I remember the game as it was yesterday, you all almost beat us.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, you could tell that you put the time and effort in. It's not like you just showed up, we playing Vashon, I'm gonna just go. You could tell you worked during the summer, you can tell you worked in the fall. And see, a lot of people don't understand basketball season don't start in September. Basketball season start all the way back in February, in January. When you get there, you go into the little neighborhood gyms, and when you're going to try to play against other people, I say Bryan got some talent. I mean, you was a very talented basketball player, so never sell yourself short for anything. If you put the time and effort in to achieve whatever you achieve, you deserve everything you got coming to you. Like you doing this right now to this day. You see Fred Saunders, got you into being on having your own podcast. Well, Fred played for me when he was a freshman. Good kid. Quiet, wouldn't say nothing, wouldn't say any word. And now you look at Fred to this day. I'm like, is this the same person? I said, Fred came out of that shell because what he call himself now, Mr. Smooth.
Man, Smooth with 3 O's. Yeah. Shout out to Smooth.
I'm telling you, I didn't see that in Fred when he was in a freshman. He was so quiet and gentle and just a good person. And his mom used to be with him every step of the way. And I still remember that day, when he started playing B team. And he just, I don't know, he did 2 years with me on B team, and he turned into a good man. He's a good person right to this day. Whenever you dedicate to yourself to anything, whether it's your marriage, whether it's working at a job, whether you coaching, if you put the time and effort in, you're going to get something good out of it. You just will. I mean, I just truly believe that. You just got to believe it in your heart that you can get this job. If somebody offered you a job, you're going to be nervous. I was nervous when I got the head coaching job at Vashon.
Marley Moody to the office, prepared to go home. Marley Moody to the office, prepared to go home.
But I put the time and effort in, and I had good leaders in front of me. So now I'm a good leader for somebody else coming behind me. So, I mean, I don't sell myself short. I know with certain things, like I used to tell the kids last year, I had confidence. I didn't know who we were going to be playing, but I had enough confidence. And I watched some of the coaches that was coaching these teams. I said, we not losing. I just really believed in my heart that we wasn't losing, because the things that I was teaching the kids here at Lexington, I knew that they weren't teaching the kids, because I've been through the war at Vashon with a lot of different teams that, I mean, guys that's in the pros, and Kevin Garnett and Ronnie Fields and all these guys. I said, no, I got the game as far as like this elementary school level. So I just truly believe we're not going to lose. And we practice like high school kids. I mean, I drove those kids last year, and now to this day they ate it up. Coach, I hope you coaching next year. I hope you coach. I'm gonna be on the team this year. They want to play now.
Yeah,
even though it was hard, they see winning just brings camaraderie. Everybody want to be a part of a winner.
Yeah, and we won. That's real.
So when you win, you go when you win, doors open up. Look
There's
at Tony Irons.
stuff fall in your lap when you win it, because everybody want to be associated with a winner. That's and that's how I try to approach life and I'm always telling kids like, hey, since I started playing, I've never been a loser. And losing doesn't always mean what's on the scoreboard. Yeah, all right, we might have fell short in this game right here, but in life, coach, I've never was a loser, because guess what? If it was a loss, I know what I need to work on, how I'm gonna come back better next time. And at the end of the day, you're not gonna break me. You know what I mean? That's what the thing is.
I call those teachable moments. When you lose, you can teach that to the kids and say, well, we lost, but what can we gain from a loss? And when you teach them what they can gain from a loss, and then you practice not to lose again certain things, then you consider yourself a winner again, because we're not gonna make those same mistakes. But as the winning come along, you got to be a good leader to lead the kids to show them what you exactly want them to do, and that's just good leadership. I mean, you have good leadership, and you do things in a consistent way, then you're gonna have a good positive outcome. I really believe that in my heart. And that's why right to this day, I know when I retire in 2 years, it's going to be a cheerful moment. It's going to be a joyous moment, because I can do what I want to do now, but it's going to hurt my soul, man, because I'm dealing with kids who definitely need help right now. These black kids need help, man. They really do. They need guidance. And with you and I and other folks, we are the right people to give them that guidance. You younger than me, not by much, but you younger than me. So you're going to be around a lot longer to teach these kids what they need to learn. And like I say, when I look at your things you put on Facebook, you're doing some good stuff with these kids, man. All I can do is take my hat off to you. You're teaching them some good stuff.
What do you think? What do you want folks to take from this story, hearing your story, hearing the trials and tribulations of the things you went through, ups and downs, your legacy? What do you want people to take from this?
I want people to take from this story that we're doing right now is that anything is possible. When I was a kid, I wasn't the best kid. I got in trouble. But like I say, when I started playing sports, and people say, well, sports is not that meaningful and not that great. Sports can change your life around. So if you get a kid involved in something that they like to do, they're going to grasp to it, and they're going to hold on to it, and they're going to make a difference in whatever they're trying to do. So whether it's sports, whether it's they trying to be a doctor, whether they trying to do something in life in other than sports, if you work hard at it and you dedicate yourself to it, you're going to be successful. So I just want these kids to know, and anybody who's listening to this podcast, I want them to know that anything is possible. And like I say, I'll go back to my little saying, hard work and dedication in any field will always lead to successful accomplishments for the most part. And I really believe that. I mean, I see people right now that was in my class years ago, and every time they see me, it's always something positive that they say. There go Coach Arm. I used to be in his class. He was the best gym teacher ever. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear that, man, he sucked. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear something positive, because I'm a positive person. So I always try to feed off positive things and try to let the kids know that you can do this. You're not in this game alone. If you try to reach something, I see kids that come in here in my gym classes and they don't have the best of nothing. The best of clothes, best of food. They looking kind of weird, but I'm that role model that they need, and I try to help them reach their goals and try to change them around. And after 4 or 5 years, I had some of these kids since they've been in preschool. And then they'd be like, Mr. Owens, I'm going to cry when I leave here. I want to be in your gym. I have guys right to this day coming back to my gym class talking about, man, can I play? I had one come in today. Man, y'all still playing this game? Can I play? I let them play. I said, just don't hurt the kids, but you can play. But he's a big guy now. He's in 9th grade now. But he still remember what he did at Lexington Elementary School, because they in their mind, they still having that same fun. They still kids. The security guard and the manager at Save-A-Lot over there by the circle, they kind of blew me away this past Saturday, because they just couldn't believe that I'm still teaching. They talking about, you still teaching? And I ain't gonna tell you what else they said. They talking about, you heck of old. And he said, but we had fun. They said another word, but I just said heck of old. I said, yeah, but I'm still doing it. He's talking about, man, you had the best gym class ever. They always tell me that. They always still remember what they did in elementary school. And in high school too. I have high school kids still talk about what they did. And
but
it's just go
but
ahead.
you hit on it, man. The teacher of the year, one of the best teachers around. You make learning fun, and before you know it, they're learning something, but they're having fun in the process, and you don't even know. It's like, you putting the medicine in the candy. That's like, all right, man, they eating it up, they having fun, and then look later on down in life, you're like, man, we didn't have fun doing this, that, and the third, and what you were doing was, no, I'm teaching. See, this is how I teach. But I'm teaching through, being able to play and you guys having fun. And I think that's what's missing a lot of times with, in my opinion, what I feel like with the game now. It's so stressful. The game shouldn't be stressful. You should be wanting to have fun doing it. If it's too stressful, don't do it.
Right. If you can't make this stuff fun, if you can't make it fun, then don't do it. Like you say, I mean, I went through 6 principals here at Lexington since I've been here. And they come in with their own agenda and they want to do this a certain way. And I say, I always go and have a personal talk with each principal. I say, look, I'm going to deal with these boys. I say, the girls I can deal with too, but I want to focus on these boys. So I get these boys and they be around me. And then my principal at the end of the year, we have our evaluation where we have to go in and sit down and talk to the principal. She said, Mr. Arms, and this is most of the principal, all of them really. He said, whatever you're doing in that gym class, we ain't gonna bother you, and you keep doing it because these kids love going to your class. They don't talk about art, they don't talk about music. Only thing they want to do is go to gym. And that's like that to this day. We have it's like a big party, man. We just have a good time. I think anything that we can play, I'm on the internet all the time looking for stuff. I'm making up stuff, games that they ain't never seen before. We did an obstacle course relay race today. Kids was screaming and hollering to the top of their lungs. Can we do this the next time? We love this game. I mean, just little simple stuff, man, that we take for granted that they eat up and they love. So I just continue to I don't sit in my office and just, I can't wait to this day or what. I try to think of stuff that I can make my class better. And I think as long as I'm growing and these kids are growing, I'm growing along right with them. I haven't stopped learning. You learn something every day. So I'm steady learning as I go along. I've been doing it 38 years, but I learn something new every day, just dealing with these kids. They bring new problems and new issues, and some of them just bring joy and happiness to myself. So I don't never take off work. I'm always here because I always know it's going to be something good. Something good happens. So that's in a nutshell. That's just the way. I mean, you ask anybody that come to my class and observe, they always know we have a darn good time. It's just a big party, man. We have fun. Even the teachers, they come in, the assistants, they come in. We go in the gym. We gonna sit down here and watch what they doing today. We have a guy named Mr. P, Mr. Perb. I can never pronounce his name right, but he come in every day and sit down and watch our class.
Wow.
He talking about, man, you always got something good for these kids. I say, well, I try to keep their interest. Once the kids feel like they bored, then they gonna start doing stuff they ain't got no business doing. But by the time they come in, boom, we at it. We doing what I do now. So when we get done what I do now, we do our warm up. So when we do our warm up, we into our activity. And once we do the activity, we play about 3 or 4 games a day, not just one, because kids play these same old games, kickball, volleyball.
Right. Then that's gonna be something that they're gonna lose their interest real fast.
Yeah. So I change it up, man. We play, and a lot of these kids don't even like playing basketball. They like playing other sports because they know I'm gonna come up with something good. We have some 5th graders who love playing basketball, but for the most part, man, we do everything. I buy scooters. We got little Razor scooters. We play with the little kids, and this little flat scooter. We play a game called scooter basketball. I put two trash cans in a chair, and they got to get on their scooters and pass it to each other. And we playing scooter basketball. They love that. We play scooter basketball. We just play everything, man. I'll be all day trying to talk about what we do, but I just do it for the kids. And I tell them, I say it's gonna be, like I say, it's gonna be in 2 years. Yeah, it's gonna be a sad day for me. It really is. But it's just something I have to do because it's going to be a change in my life. But I always, come back and try to give my advice or whatever and try to help out, But 40 years is long enough, and it's been a ride. It's been a good ride, changing lives, man. That's what you'll see, man. When you get a little older, you're gonna see, man. You're gonna see the impact. You're gonna see the impact that you're making on kids, man. And now a lot of these folks, I can't call them kids now because they grown adults. But when I talk to them, they still talk about that little kiddie stuff that they did that's still in them. Bombs away. Who would think about y'all still playing bombs? You've been out of high school 25 years. Man, y'all still play bombs away? And I said, yeah. You know,
Yep.
so it's not gonna change. Only thing that changes are the faces of the kids,
Mhm.
and then but they still the same kids. You know, we dealing with the same kids. It's just different faces.
Well,
All these kids have the same similar issues. You know, we all cut from the same cloth, most of us. So I treat them the same. You know, and eventually they buy in. You know, you just got to be a positive role model for them. You know, some of them gonna piss you off and make you mad. Of course,
that's part. It's part of the game. It's part of the
you ain't gonna be able to
territory.
please everybody. But I figured that if you do it the right way, they gonna buy in. I had some fifth graders, man, that was giving me the blues last year. But you see them this year, they are totally different people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I told them I'm not gonna be negative. I got 2 more years to go. I'm gonna have our fun in all these last 2 years. I'm doing whatever we want to do, and we're gonna have fun.
Man,
and when I talk to my principals,
2 years.
they got my back 150%. They always tell me, just keep doing what you're doing. These kids love coming to your class.
Man,
So-
no, I appreciate it, Coach. So again, Coach Arms, man, the player, the teacher, the coach, the legend. Man, this has been everything, Coach. Man, thank you for your time and your truth, because I think
No
people
doubt.
needed to hear this.
Right.
And I want to make sure that this story gets out to a whole nother generation of folks, because you know, I'm gonna keep pushing the PHL. I'm gonna keep pushing legacy. I'm gonna keep pushing the folks that made an impact on my life. And so you've made an impact on my life, man. I still remember those
and you made an
gym
impact
classes
on my life
on
too,
Farragut, man. I appreciate you.
You know, the same way I make an impression on your life and impact, you make an impact on me, because I look at you now and say you the up and coming great coach. And I see a lot of stuff that you do with these kids, and all I can do is just go, yeah. I can just say, yeah, Bryan doing it. You know, I remember when I was that age doing it. You know, I was coaching with Floyd Irons when I was 23 years old. You know, so I started off young, fresh out of college. I was at a little middle school over at Langston Middle School. He pulled me from Langston Middle School. I went and started coaching B team. So I coached B team for 12 years, and I coached the girls B team in varsity for 10 years. Then I became the athletic director for 2 years. So I mean, I don't know, man. You just, wherever you do and wherever you go, man, just make sure that you're doing it for these kids, man. As long as you're doing it for the kids, you're doing it for the right people.
Yep, for
Real
sure.
talk.
And so this is how I normally end every podcast. I normally say, I make sure that everyone out here that's listening, man, that you're grateful for every sunrise and thankful for every sunset. So again, this is Coach Russell Arms. This is Coach Bryan Turner. Appreciate you guys for listening and chiming in on this podcast. And I will check you guys on the next video.